I asked to place this photo on the screen because of the reason which I will explain a bit later. A couple of words about myself. I have been living in Kiev for about 8 years. Before that, I worked for one of the Russian stock exchanges, and in 2009, I was part of the team which established Ukrainian Exchange here in Kiev. After that, I decided to live here, and I still changed my mind. Even though the situation is in Ukraine here is kind of complicated, and that is in fact the reason why the picture of the mountain closely relates to the business here in Ukraine, which I'm working for. When you go to the mountain, you are never sure that you will summit. You not even always see the summit, because, for example, this picture, the top point on the photo is not the summit. The summit is behind. But when you are close to the footage of the mountain, you cannot see the summit because there was some curve, some landscape which seems to be higher than the summit. And to get to the summit, you have to overcome this point, this height. And by the way, this is the Kazbek mountain, which is 5,000 meters high. And in the topic which I am supposed to talk today, the idea is to have an attempt to launch a new product. We do not know whether we will summit the mountain this time, or we will decide to turn back, or it depends on the weather, depends on the health, it depends on the health of yourself, of your partners, and even on your health of the people who will doing the same attempt at the same day. Because if you, for example, meet the people who is sick, and you will have to help him to go down, and seizing the attempt to go up. But straight to the point. The Ukrainian Exchange, which we are shareholders of last month in December, technically prepared the launch of the new product, which is surprisingly enough the first attempt ever in the world to launch the futures contract on a regulated market on the underlying, which is Bitcoin price. We have not started trading yet because we are expecting market makers to come out to the market, because without market makers, no trading is possible. Especially when you're starting a completely new product, which is none in the world dared to start yet. The idea is to provide the Bitcoin community, Bitcoin users, Bitcoin professionals with the instrument which has some advantages comparing to the cash trading on the exchanges. When you are trading on the exchange, you have to deposit your money, your deposits, your bitcoins to the exchange, which a bit risky. We know many examples when the not nice things happened, but it's a credit risk. And Bitcoin exchanges, at least so far, comparing to the regulated markets, are a bit smaller, a bit less credible. And we suppose that people will trust more in the regulated market, which is not always in the world, but in Ukraine we have two too few instruments to trade on, and we decided why not. Why not to try to offer the new instruments which have following advantages. First of all, to trade futures, you do not have to place 100% of the money or commodity trades like Bitcoin. The second is that the transparency, which is obliged to provide the regulated market, put some extra confidence. And these two advantages probably will not be enough. We will see. But we hope that this might be a kind of pioneering venture project which attracts people all around the world to the Ukrainian market. We, of course, understand that the Ukrainian jurisdiction legislation is not, I would say, not the best in the world from the terms of the financial markets, because it's kind of disabled. You know, the people with disability, and I name the Ukrainian legislation is kind of disabled because many things are prohibited to do here in Ukraine, which are obviously people in all other countries can do for free or freely and without any restrictions. Here in Ukraine, we still have a lot of restrictions which look like legacy of Soviet era when everything was prohibited except few things. And what are the features of the product? First is it is dollar nominated, so the pricing will be close enough to the price which is now traded on the Bitcoin exchanges. So roughly today it's about 1,000. But the settlement will be done in hryvnia, because we are in Ukraine and because stock exchanges doesn't have a chance to clear in any other kind of currency, at least so far. And the major feature is that it is a cash settled product. It is not it doesn't suppose to have a physical delivery at the end of the contract. The settlement is cash based, so we get the index value from the blockchain.org and use it as the settlement price. The contract is 6 months old, and every 3 months we list another contract. And so if you trade today, in the 3 months, you will be settled against the price, which will be at the market at that time, at the time of the contract settlement. So which is common technique which is used for any commodities or securities traded on the futures. So nothing new, not special know-how. And what is the idea to trade on this contract is to have less funds to trade, less risks against the counterparty, against the exchange in our case, which we hope that will attract some liquidity. So and if some of yours or your friends, colleagues, or even relatives wants to be a market maker, we highly appreciate if you let me know, and we will contact you with the exchange and arrange all the things to provide you with the ability to trade. Even if you just thinking, ask me questions, ask questions to the exchange. which will, of course, will be eager to help to understand the nature of product, the specialties of the current regulations in Ukraine, etc., to let you set up your connectivity and trading accounts with a local broker. And I mentioned local brokers because according to the law, any ultimate clients wishing to trade on the exchange has to set up an account with a licensed broker here in Ukraine and trades through this kind of accounts. By the way, I am working for Europe Investment Group, which is one of the local brokers, and we will talk about that as well. So briefly, that is my points, and I would like to answer questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alexey. That was a great comparison with the summit of the market. I think really involved.
My name is Andrei. I want to ask you about first question. What's the daily volume on this index?
Zero. The trading is not started. We are waiting for market making. We expected to set up all the stuff. It needs in a couple of weeks. So at the moment, trading is zero.
Okay. And the second question, you say you get price from blockchain.org, but I opened this site just now. I can see only this domain registered and.
I'm sorry. Probably Bitcoin.org. No, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
This one works. I've tried many times. Here we go. One more question here. Sorry. Wrong sign. Receipt. Okay. Any other questions that we want to ask Alexey? Sure. Frank.
Thanks for this very insightful speech. Have you ever thought, you being the only one starting this product, on how to scale this if it takes off and if a lot of investors are trying to hedge their position in Bitcoin?
How to scale? You know that this question is pretty important, but not quite relevant at the early stage, because the trading system is probably less than 1%, less than 1% of its power of it, because we do not expect that the scalability will be an issue in a couple of years. So we have time to be prepared for. But anyway, the technology we use is the same as installed on the Moscow exchange. So we bought the license from there, and they trade a huge amount of transactions every day. The total volumes are counted in billions US daily. So we expect that it's not an issue for Ukraine, say, in a couple of years at least.
Let's imagine I sit in the States somewhere and I really want to use this tool, basically. We talked a lot about identity and KYC today. How would this work in terms of getting my KYC done so that I can use some kind of intermediary to trade this product? Thank you.
Ukraine is not unique in this sense. We are now regulated by the National Commission of the Securities and Stock Markets, presented in the beginning of the day by Timur Khromayev, and the requirement is more or less the same as in Europe or in Russia. So we get pretty the same procedures for KYC, all these stacks of paper documents. The only difference between Ukraine and Russia, we here in Ukraine cannot accept digital proof of the identity of the physical person. We need a copy of the passport, etc. But I hope that it's an issue of another couple of years, then we also adapt these technologies, which are not rocket science.
Thank you so much. Is there any other questions to Alexey? As for the moment? Okay. Thank you so much. And by this, we are going to close our third section. And I kindly invite you to our coffee break zone again. We're going to have our...
Thank you, audience, and invite you all to try to summit this mountain together. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Alexey.